this is a very interesting topic, and I won't keep this very long because there's not really much I can say. So I think there's like every year, at the end of the year, when people do their book count, how many books I read this year, how many books I read this month, how many books did I DNF? Like when people try to quantify their reading goals and talk about what they accomplished, what they fell short at, and or how they felt like they could do better for next season, I think a lot of people get really threatened by that for some reason. And I never understood that. I don't understand why that matters to you, but people get offended, whatever, that's normal. So on one side of it, it's like there's these readers. I read 200 books this year. I read 500 books this year. And honestly, the initial thought of hearing 500 books, I'm like, that means you have to read a lot of the days, at least 2 books a day, you know? Is that possible? I don't know. I ain't never done it. But at the same time, that like, I also know what you do. I don't know what you do for a living. I don't know what you do, what's going on in your life. Like, shit, like, if you work at a library, I expect you to be like reading a lot. Or, you know, if you're being left, you know, like, there's different scenarios that I can never account for. No one can ever account for it. But on the flip side of that, it's like, how do you have time? There's no way. Like, you're a liar. Like I just said, like, you don't know what they do for a living. You don't know what they do with their everyday life. Like, while you're watching TV, they could be reading. And I've heard a lot of book talkers, bookstagrammers say that, like, I don't watch TV, I read. Which I think is great. But at the end of the day, like, why does it matter if they read 100 books or not? They could be exaggerating at the ass. And again, like, what is a book? You know? There's people who say romance stuff isn't books. Smut's not a book. If there's no plot, it's not a book. They read something. Why does it matter? I try to be better I give myself a number to shoot, like a target to shoot for, just so I have like make sure I am actually reading, you know, and kind of exercise my brain, because there's a whole stretch of time academically I wasn't reading at all, like more than I needed to, like for school assignments. And I really enjoyed reading as a child, but because life got in the way, I stopped reading. Now I force myself to have time because I'd be getting invested. I'm like, yo, she better get her back blown out. I gotta figure out what happened. How did it turn out? Does she come back for, you know, like, I gotta do that. That's my investment. That's me, cliffhanger. When you think about it, before KU, when you're talking about reading for quantity, like reading a lot of books, the library is a done deal. Like that's a given. Go to the library because it's free. You get a library card, you sit at the library, you check out books, you read, and you can read as much as you want. And, you know, that's like a symbiotic relationship. You help them, they help you. Versus people who don't go to libraries and physically buy books. And it's like, okay, you know, that's not economical, that quantity you're reading. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying, like, you got a lot of money. You got to spend a lot of money. People who use different things, like, oh, I buy the books and I unhaul them or whatever. If you got a system that works for you, good for you, you know? I'm not going to tell you it's bad. But then there's obviously, like, when ebooks came out or became more popular, then you can buy Kindle versions of, you know, books, and it's still technically not quite economic. It's cheaper than buying a physical book, but it's still, you know, between $4 to $8 a book, depending on the book, you know, like, that's gonna add up over time. Now you got KU. That's the gold mine here. When you have people who could read fast, read long books, short books, whatever, unlimited, and then you only cap it at like $10 a month, you best believe people are gonna be using that as a huge resource. Like, and I do that, and I there was points where I read more books than the value of that. Like, technically, like $10 is like, some books is like 1 book a month, you know, that price. But if you can read 6 books for $10 a month, like, that's a steal, right? And just off the bat, you know, hold on, 12 times. Okay, just off the bat, 6 books a month on KU is 72 books by the end of the year. And not all books are the same length. Some books are shorter, some books are longer, some books, like, are series, so it kind of, like, it makes you want to read faster because you want to know what's going to happen versus, like, you going through a book slump or you're a mood reader, whatever it is. But the point is, right, the books are there. The manner in which we obtain them has evolved over time, which allows people to be able to read faster and more efficiently in an inconvenient manner. Why am I bringing this up? Because I have financial obligations elsewhere. Like, my main feature in life at the moment is being an athlete. I don't have the money to allocate to just having a home library that I can just casually pick up when I feel like it. I don't even have a home. I move around so much that it doesn't make sense. So that's why I got the Kindle. What helps me even more is, like, when I first learned about ARC opportunities, and that's just the advanced reader copy. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So I was like, well, I like free. Who doesn't like free? I love free stuff. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to take this opportunity to try and, like, get some free books. Was following different book talkers, bookstagrammers. They're talking about these promo sites or these places that have, like, a lot of PR groups for different books that are being released, or they need some help getting it out there to, you know, readers and get it out on the internet and out in the virtual world. And so I signed up. And there's a number of platforms you can try and look at, and I one of my mutuals on Book Talk mentioned something, so I signed up on that account and kind of just sat there. My emails are blown up. Like, they have stuff all the time because there's so many. It's such a hub of like so many different authors and their works. There's always stuff in there, and there's different things. There's things of various like genres, different tropes, different like audience targets, and it's just like a minefield of so many different things. And I realized I am not at that level or that position in my life to be able to just read any of these things at this rate. Like, I don't have that time available to me. It was nice, the concept of wanting to get free stuff, but because I can't, shit, I have to unsubscribe at this point because it's too much. Like, it literally feeds in my inbox, and there's no way I can take the time to sit down and go through the different books and say, oh, I would and apply to different ones, or say, hey, I would like to read this, and kind of be on standby and see if they'll give it to me. So I had to change my approach in how I was looking at receiving art copies. So that's when I went back and looked at, like, okay, well, majority of these books, 99.999% of these authors, I had never heard of them. I know their work. I'm not familiar with their, you know, their style of writing. I'm not familiar with their audience targets. I don't know anything about them, which is the whole premise of having this promo thing, to kind of get a gauge. But I just don't have that capability. So I don't think it's fair for me to sit here and read a book I'm not as invested in or understanding of where it's coming from, and then be able to rate it or put it out there because I don't like it or believe in it or just didn't have the time to actually think about the plot line or whatever. So all this to say, like, I knocked down my ARC requests to authors I actually like and enjoy. So that means, like, Elizabeth Stevens, example, Ursula Dax, and Gillian Graves, I read their, you know, initial books, or I've been with them in their promotional process, and I like their stuff, especially the books that I've read. And I'm like for Ursula Dax, I got into like the first few books, and I was like, yo, this is amazing. So I would hype her up on Instagram and TikTok. And I'm not saying like she owed this to me at all. I'm just saying, like, I that's how much I loved it. I did it because it was just like, I had just so many content ideas I just want to put out there and let people know, like, yo, y'all are reading this series. Y'all gotta start reading this series. This is great. And like, it just so happened that she like, hey, would you like an art copy? And I was like, me? Moi? Of course. So then she asked for my email, and it's been a great thing ever since. It's like Christmas every time I get an email from her. Hey, sending you an art copy. I'm like, yes. So I get my art copies from all this to say, again, I get art copies from authors I'm currently like invested in. One that helps me, you know, not stress out about not hitting my deadlines or obligations. And then two, I actually enjoy the work. I know I'm going to like it because I already like the author. I'm already invested. So that's why we do it. The biggest thing I think is the biggest takeaway, I guess, from all this is not to make reading, which is supposed to be enjoyable, competitive, right? Like, just because someone says they read 200 books in a year, does that mean you have to read 200 books in a year? Does that mean, and that doesn't mean the type of books you read isn't a book. Just because it's smut or romance doesn't mean it's not a book. It's not a valid count towards that end number. And just because you can't read 8 books in a month does not mean you're not a good reader. I can't read fast, and I felt kind of stupid and slow in the beginning when I saw these people talking about that. I was like, you know what, this is just what I'm allowed. This is what I'm capable of doing right now, and I'm happy with it. I'm happy with the pace I have. I'm happy with what I can do, what I can handle, because this is my escape. I treat it like my escape. I enjoy it. The moment you make it a competition, it's not fun no more. It's not enjoyable because you're trying to finish it fast and you miss the whole damn story. So enjoy reading. That's what it's for. Don't make it a competition. And if you have the means of going out and buying all these books and getting multiple editions of it, more power to you. Good for you. I know majority of people can't do that. I'm sure they would love to. They just can't physically do it at the time. So take advantage of opportunity. Don't take advantage of authors, but take advantage of opportunities presented where they have art copies available, or they're looking for beta readers, or they're looking for people to help with promo packages or street team or street marketing. Like, keep an eye. Like, if you have a favorite author, subscribe or follow them on their socials to keep an eye out for these different opportunities. There's so many different opportunities and things available that do come up occasionally that, you know, it might work out for you. It might help you out. You know, not everyone's got money to ball out on this an entire book series or just get everything, all the merch and stuff. So, you know, you might have to be picky with what you get, but like at the same time, enjoy it. You know, and that's the phrase my grandma said, don't bite off more you can chew. I did that. Learned my lesson. knocked it down. I read what I can read, and I enjoy what I can enjoy.